Since Tensura Season 3 is just around the corner, I thought why not recap how strong our favorite slimy enemy of ecchi girls really is. When you look at Rimuru outside of the anime, he's easily one of the top 10 strongest Isekai characters out there, and could possibly be one of the top 20 strongest in anime in general. But today we're just gonna focus on how strong he is after he became a demon lord, including his strongest skills, the benefits of becoming a demon slime, and how strong he is when you compare him to other demon lords. But before we get into him being a demon lord, we need to see what he was like before he became a demon slime. So let's start off with his species or intrinsic skills. Rimuru's intrinsic skills mostly consisted of Absorb, Dissolve, and Self-Regeneration, and their names basically speak for themselves. Absorb allows him to take in anything into his body, which is also what allowed him to take Veldora into his stomach. Dissolve allows him to break things down in order for analysis to work, we'll get to that later, and Self-Regeneration allows him to regenerate from nearly any wound as long as he has enough magicules. Absorb and Dissolve are basically the inferior versions of Predator and Gluttony, and the reason I didn't list Analysis there is because it's not really an intrinsic skill. It's the unique skill Rimuru got because of Great Sage, so it's not really a skill that any other slime would have. However, as a demon slime, Rimuru's intrinsic skills increase to Infinite Regeneration, Control Magic, Multilayer Barrier, Universal Detect, Universal Shapeshift, Demon Lord's Aura, Enhanced Replication, Spatial Motion, Dark Flame Lightning, and Universal Thread. He has a lot of common skills too, like Thought Communication and Coercion, extra skills like Spatial Motion and Dark Flame, and countless other minor but strong skills. With all these skills Rimuru has, it basically gives him the opportunity to adapt to any situation he's in. Even before becoming a Demon Lord, Rimuru always had a bunch of options whenever it came to fights. For example, when he was fighting the Orc Lord, Rimuru first watched as Benimaru, Shion, Soe, and Hakuryu fight the Orc Lord, then decides to take over using Great Sage's Autobata mode. And after studying the Orc disaster for a bit, he went back to using Devour and Absorb to win the fight. Now, after seeing that, you could technically argue that once Rimuru beat the Orc disaster with such ease, he was as strong as a low-level demon lord like Clayman, if not stronger. Because when you compare Clayman to Rimuru, Rimuru has way more abilities and a wider range of resistances and skills at this point in the series. So even before Rimuru became a true demon lord, he was most likely already as strong as a regular one. Now let's get into everything about him being an actual demon lord. When Rimuru evolved, there were three major things that went to increase his strength. They were the upgrading and evolution of his original skills, the acquisition of his ultimate skills, and the gifts that were given to his subordinates and those connected to him. We'll get into how the gifts improve his abilities later. We already went through his skill evolutions, so now let's just take a look at his ultimate skills, those being Raphael, Beelzebub, Uriel, and Veldora. Now let's start off with possibly the most important evolution that Rimuru got. Raphael is the evolution of Great Sage, who you can basically think of as his personal ChatGPT. And with the evolution that Raphael got, all the abilities that it was previously in control of got upgraded. For example, a skill like Hasten Thought that used to boost Rimuru's perception speed by 1,000 times, now does so by 1 million. Most, if not all, the other skills that were under Great Sage got similar upgrades. Raphael also got 2 new abilities, those being Synthesize and Separate. When Rimuru's evolution was taking place, Great Sage, now Raphael, requested an evolution, but it failed multiple times. So, Degenerate, the skill that he got from Shizu, was sacrificed. Synthesis transforms 2 different items or skills into one, and Separate is basically just the opposite of Synthesize. Instead of combining 2 items or skills, it separates the properties inherent to the target. Obviously, there were more skills that had similar evolutions, but apart from minor upgrades, there really wasn't much that improved. Along with those, Raphael was given full reign and control over all of Rimuru's skills. So instead of Rimuru having to figure out and remember each and every skill and understand when and how to use it, he can just have Raphael go through the best options and see which one would work best based on the situation that they were in. There is more to go into regarding this, but for it to make sense, we need to look at Rimuru's second ultimate ability, that being Beelzebub. Beelzebub, or Lord of Gluttony, is the ultimate skill that Rimuru got after his unique skill, Gluttony, consumed his unique skill, Merciless. It's basically an upgrade to everything Gluttony could do before, but with a couple of additional abilities. For example, Stomach was stated to have gained a much larger capacity, which helped Rimuru in freeing Veldora. Beelzebub also has a skill called Soul Consumption, which is basically a stronger form of Merciless. And then you have a skill like Food Chain, which is arguably the best ability that Beelzebub has. Food Chain is derived from Receive, which allows Rimuru to gain the ability to obtain skills from anyone who he's connected to or is under his influence. It also allows him to provide abilities to anyone he's connected to as long as they're compatible with the skill. So just like when Soi was able to learn Shadow Clone from Rimuru using Receive, he could now do this on a much larger scale with more efficiency. Beelzebub is also probably the skill that you guys are most familiar with, since it's technically one of the skills he's had the longest. It started out as Predator, then Gluttony, and finally Beelzebub. But apart from what we mentioned before, there isn't really much else that he gets from this ultimate ability. What makes this skill so broken is when he pairs it with his third ultimate skill, Uriel. Uriel, the Lord of Vows, is a skill Rimuru got after using his unique skill Unlimited Imprisonment as a base and combining hundreds of skills that he acquired through Food Chain. The abilities that come with this skill are Unlimited Imprisonment, Universal Barrier, Control Laws, and Dominate Space. And on top of having these 4 broken skills, he has all the skills from his subordinates, like the chef skill that he got from Shion, which to this day I can't tell if it was a blessing or a curse. Or a more useful skill like Generalismo that he got from Benimaru. He also gained access to hundreds of different types of magic, arts, and skills. And if you're not sure what arts are, they're techniques performed entirely through the user's own capabilities such as martial arts or magic, rather than through the completely automatic process of skills. And because Raphael has control over all these skills and can just suggest the perfect one when necessary, or even if the perfect skill doesn't exist, she can just create it from scratch, we now have a Rimuru that is capable of reacting and adapting to any situation he's in as long as he has magicules and the skills necessary for creation of a new skill. So when Veldora had said that Rimuru is basically invincible, he wasn't necessarily wrong, seeing as how rare it is for an individual to have an ultimate skill in the first place, even among some of the most powerful in the series, and Rimuru having 4 of them that work so well together is pretty much unheard of. Speaking of Veldora, let's talk about Rimuru's final ultimate skill, that being Veldora. There aren't really that many interesting things about this ultimate skill, but it does have its uses. Veldora, Lord of the Storm, is the ultimate skill Rimuru gained after consuming the remains of Veldora in his stomach and analyzing them. The abilities Veldora gives are extremely specific, but could easily act as a trump card in any fight that Rimuru is in the future. First, we have Summon Storm Dragon, which allows him to call or summon Veldora, which we'll get into soon. Then we have Restore Storm Dragon that copies Veldora's memories and puts them into Rimuru's own mind. He also gained the ability to use storm magic such as Death Calling Wind, Dark Lightning, and Storm of Destruction, all of which are incredibly powerful skills. But the ones we'll mostly be focusing on are Summon Storm Dragon and Restore Storm Dragon. Now, these skills might seem pretty simple, but in reality, they're more complex than you might think. Summon Storm Dragon doesn't just summon Veldora, what it does is something akin to reconstruction of the body and soul. Veldora doesn't technically have a body. However, his soul resides in Rimuru and there is only a link to the body Rimuru provides. So whenever Rimuru summons Veldora, he destroys the body that Veldora was in previously and creates another one. He then puts all the memories that the previous Veldora has into that body. And since Veldora resides in Rimuru's soul, no matter how much damage Veldora takes, as long as Rimuru is still alive, he can always regenerate. So now, even with all those broken skills, he now has an immortal pocket dragon that he can call whenever he wants. We've already acknowledged that Rimuru has a bunch of OP skills and the magicules to use them. But is that really enough to call him strong? I mean, anyone can have a bunch of OP skills, so what makes Rimuru so different? Well, it's simple. There are actually 3 reasons. First of all, it's Rimuru's ability to adapt to any situation he's in. And even if the foe is so strong that adaptation isn't enough to win, like when he was fighting Milim or Hinata, he has no problem using other means to either run away or try and convince the other person to surrender. And with the recent upgrades that he's got, I don't think he'll be surrendering to anyone anytime soon or running away. The second factor in his strength is when you look at his subordinates. Now, if we're using Clayman as what a Demon Lord should be like or how strong they should be, then almost all of Rimuru's top subordinates are at least at the level of a low-level Demon Lord. I mean, seeing how easily Shion beat the crap out of Clayman, I see no reason why Benimaru couldn't do the same, since he was stated to be stronger than her in the first place. Hakuro probably couldn't pull it off, but Shuna and Soe might actually stand a chance. As for the rest, they might not be as strong as a low-level Demon Lord, but they are at least comparable. With Rimuru already being a Demon Lord and having control over creatures that are on the same level as Demon Lords, it just goes to show how much power Rimuru actually holds under his belt. Which brings us to our next point, Rimuru's influence on everyone and everything around him. Not only is Rimuru good at making strong allies, he's able to make the perfect decisions or ally with the right people at the right time. In just 2 years of being a leader, Rimuru managed to ally himself with 2 major nations and a smaller nation, who all have enormous respect for Rimuru not just as a leader but as a person in general. They not only respect his power but also respect his ideals, which is actually one of the huge driving forces in their alliance. Rimuru has the ability to influence people's hearts and minds and drag them in not only to help him but to see what he'll become in the future. And in a world where survival of the fittest is the #1 rule, that is one of the most valuable abilities that a person could have. And yeah, that's basically everything on how strong Rimuru is as a Demon Lord. If you guys actually enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.